Well, good afternoon from Hingham, and it is not Friday afternoon, it's actually Saturday afternoon. And it's been a busy week for me, and I suspect a very busy week for you also. Can you believe the course is half over? It's very hard for me to think, boy, things are just going fast. It seems like we were just talking about vision and motivation. But time goes on. I want to thank Jill, Fernando, and Patrick for volunteering to spend an hour with me on the telephone. We had great conversation, and they got to know me a little bit better, and I got to know them. Listen, that offer and request is still open, so send me an email through Blackboard if you'd like to chat, and we'll schedule some time. We actually had our first case discussion this week, and I have to admit that I found it quite awkward, and I had a very difficult time moderating it as I wanted. I'm generally known as a pretty good discussion leader for cases, but it was hard for me. I couldn't see your faces. It was hard for me to read how the discussion was going. So as much as I like case discussions, I think this was the first and the only one we're going to have. I'll have to check that. I got to admit, I was very surprised at the rush to judgment against Ted. In fact, I wanted to discuss Karen's ambition and how Ted was or could be supporting Karen's ambition. But for most of the discussion was around Ted. Listen, if you want to read more about my take on this whole case discussion, I've got a pretty elaborate written commentary this week. In fact, I've got a much longer written commentary both on ambition in general, ambition in women, and in this case. So I encourage all of you to read it. It's attached to the Blackboard message that I sent you. Now we turn to the next learning module, which is ethics and integrity. And I want to get one thing straight right at the beginning. Most of us think of ethics as being choosing between right and wrong. Well, if it was that easy, everybody would make the correct decision, which is the right decision. But rarely do ethics issues show up as a choice between right and wrong. More generally, they show up as a choice between wrong and wrong, and occasionally between right and right. And you'll see that as the week goes on. Now, let me say that I've changed this week's learning module from the original syllabus. That which is in the learning module now is accurate, but it doesn't match what I wrote 6 months ago in the syllabus. I've made a couple of things optional. There is a long video, very interesting video that I'd encourage you to watch, but it's all optional on, the moral dilemma of murder. And I actually have an optional discussion on that. For those of you that are intrigued by the video and would like to partake in the discussion, great, but it's optional and it won't be graded. Second of all, I have changed one of the discussions on ethics by adding a whole series of questions. You don't have to answer all the questions. I picked 2 or 3 that strike you, and you can use those as your keys. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new optional discussion called the Dilemma of the Day. And hopefully I can construct these little vignettes that you can discuss. And each day, if I can come up with them, I will change the discussion of the day, the dilemma of the day. Even if you do not choose to partake, you might just read what the dilemma is to see how difficult many of the choices that managers and leaders face on a daily basis. As I mentioned, I have a more detailed written commentary this week. I encourage all of you to read it. Remember, your first course assignment of the two is due in 2 weeks, and I hope that you are all progressing very well. Good luck in week 8 of this course, and I will talk to you next Friday.